Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. How you guys doing? It is Monday, it's Memorial Day, but I didn't want to go without at least doing some video, and because I know how you guys are. You get mad at me if I take a day off. I know yesterday I got some stuff saying, you should have been on with Peter. So obviously I'm pre-recording this for you. So I'll probably be in the comments just so I can say hi to you when it plays. But I want to take this time to say I appreciate you. And hopefully by now we've heard that Yemi is out of surgery and that everything's good. Today's episode is going to be about a single person. And you guys have known my journey. My journey's been one that for the last 6 years could be well defined as having to fight through slander and attacks and lots of things they've done, not just to me, but to my family and to other people around the country. I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one that's been victimized. We obviously have Tina Peters that is sat in jail for almost 2 years, just got a commutation of her sentence cut nearly in half that puts her in a position where she will be released on June 1st. We are grateful for that. I do want to remind all of you that it took a Democrat to get that to happen. In other words, it was Jared Polis that, as a Democrat, that got Tina Peters released. I don't really know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that. That we didn't take all the steps necessary in order to get her out sooner, or maybe we did. I don't know. I'm reserving judgment right now. Obviously, it's more complicated, and I don't have a seat at the table and understand all the pieces that played a part in that. I do know that Pam Bondi was released of her responsibility, and Todd Blanche took over that responsibility as the acting AG. And still things did not get accomplished. But there's more and more stuff that are happening that I think gives us pause to say there's a pretty good chance that we will get justice of some sort. There's been indictments that have been dropping every single day. And there's an office in the DOJ specifically out of Miami that has a bulk of those investigations and those indictments and charges. So is there hope? I believe there is. President Trump on Thursday of last week had a simple thing that he said. He goes, I'm going to rid the government of the deep state. That's a statement that you make when you're ready to push certain levers or pull certain levers and push certain buttons. I have a lot of faith in President Trump. He's come a long way, and I don't think he's going to do anything that would put us in a position where after he leaves his office in 2 years that we go backwards. And that includes making sure that the people inside of the administration recognize how serious he is about getting rid of these really diabolical people that have done some terrible things to our country over the last 20 years. That includes, by the way, stolen elections. I believe that the elections in our country are largely stolen. That's what I believe. I don't believe that because it's just empty conjecture. I believe that because it's true. Now, I went from running for governor of the state of Colorado feeling that, I can win this, and there's a lot of things that I can accomplish. We can gut the rotted judiciary of the state, or the fact that they have done some really horrible things to put criminals back on the street while persecuting good people. The judiciary is probably the largest problem we have in the state of Colorado because it is the thing that allows for them to be punitive and to attack any dissenters. It is a political apparatus, and frankly, the entire state of Colorado, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans are all held hostage by these people, the haves, including Polis and Weiser and Griswold. But I stepped out of that because there was an opportunity when Britta Horn stepped down to fix the county party, fix the state party for the Republican Party. In doing that, I've been able to meet a lot of people. I've also been able to see some of the the institutional rot we've had in the party for a long time, the attacks that happen, the scarlet letters that are put on people, the mean girl tactics. And in one case, I came out and I endorsed a man named Adam DeRito. As soon as I did, I got attacked from everyone. And they're like, you need to know who Adam is. And I was like, great, show me the evidence. Show it to me. And obviously, I am in data. So I picked up the phone, started making phone calls, engaging in what can only be described as a pinpointed plight to figure out, true or false, is Adam DeRito a bad guy? I had people come to my office, people called me, people lobbied me, people made decisions for me. And this is before I was running for chair. I was running for governor, and Adam was running for Congress. And then he didn't win. And a large part of why he didn't win is that there was these people that collectively came up with receipts. Now, I have a large respect for a lot of people in the state of Colorado, and I try to stay out of the fray. But the fray went too far in the last couple of weeks. And I don't have to agree with Adam. I don't have to agree with the other people that were making these accusations, but I do have to address them. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this because I'm going to be joined by Adam DeRito. And you'd say, Joe, why are you bringing Adam on? Because I want Adam to talk about what Adam has gone through over the last 18 years. This is his account. This is his ability to talk to you. If you're in Colorado, I would listen to him. But a few days ago, I had somebody come to my office, a lawyer, and ask me if I was directing people to do harm to Adam DeRito. I think Adam knows that I would never do that. I would never do that to anyone. I didn't do it to Victor Marks. I wasn't in part of any of the investigations into Victor Marks, and I am not a part of any investigation or lifting up the hood against Adam DeRito. But this party in the state of Colorado has eaten its own so effectively that they never, ever get a chance to be tactical and fix the state for the people in the state. And that ultimately is what we're supposed to be as a Republican Party. So the lawyer came to me and said, I'm going to be suing a bunch of people, Joe, but I've known you for a long time, and I just need to know where you stand on this. So rather than put ourselves in a position where we get into lawsuits, I asked for Adam to come in, sit down with me. I had a conversation with the other parties, and I said, listen, we've got to find a way to stop shooting at each other and shoot at our target, which is the evil that has consumed our country. The reason why I'm running for state chair is because, frankly, I want to be able to create and have an enema of the party where we set standards that you have to operate from. But before we can do that, we got to get through a few things. We got to have people like Adam DeRito, who's joined me right now in the studio, and have a conversation about what it is that he's gone through over the last 18 years. So with that said, Adam, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for bringing me on, Joe. It's really always an honor to talk to you and come on here.
So Adam, when I first heard all these things, these accusations that go all the way back to the Air Force Academy, I just picked up the phone and called you, right?
Yeah, it's the best way to talk to people.
And I said, tell me how true this is.
Yeah.
We came right through the front door. And you're like, let me show you all the things. And you wrote a book. You showed me other documents and information. And then when you did, I said, okay, I'm satisfied. And I made phone calls and I called you and I said, hey, I've talked to certain people, here's what they said. And you were like, yep, that checks.
Yeah.
Right? I put a stake in the ground when I call it being ambushed. Thank you, by the way. At least give me an opportunity to have that conversation. But I put a stake in the ground after watching a video that appeared to have people call for you to basically off yourself.
Yep.
And to make accusations that I can't find any support of.
That's correct.
So let's go back in time. You were in the Air Force Academy going back when?
I started my time at the Academy in 2006. So I was a member of the class of 2010. So I was there for the full 4 years, freshman through first year, as we call it. So.
Okay. And you were a spry young man, so you probably had a few demerits that you probably deserved.
Absolutely. I gave you my entire disciplinary record from everything I did, good and bad, at the academy. But like I said, never been arrested, don't have a criminal record, and the things that happened to me at the academy were not necessarily uncommon amongst cadets. But yeah, I mean, I showed you everything. I was fully transparent.
You have any regrets? Some of the things you did?
Of course I do. I mean, I was not the most intelligent individual, I would say, between the ages of 18 and 22. I made my mistakes, but I served my penance for those things in terms of what the cadet disciplinary system mandated. And I was slated to graduate. I earned my cross commission to the United States Marine Corps, so I technically completed 2 commissioning sources while I was there. And the only thing I had to do was come back and finish off my degree at the academy, and then I was off to the Marine Corps at the basic school in Quantico, Virginia after that.
Why did you want to serve?
I mean, that goes back a long time. I mean, I always wanted to serve since I was 12. I mean, at a young age, I was involved in the fire department, search and rescue teams, first aid squad in my local hometown, and 9/11 had a huge effect on that. And especially on Memorial Day, it's really important to talk about that because that entire incident changed my entire generation, the millennials. And Brian Perello, Lance Corporal Brian Perello, was killed in my hometown. Played football with him on the West Milford High School football team. So when we talk about the Iraq War back in that time from the early 2000s, it doesn't really get personal until it comes home, and Brian got killed in 2005 and I was graduating the next year, and myself and several other people from my class were joining the military. So we knew what we were getting ourselves into directly. And at 18 years old, the way the Bush era was going at that time, and we were all full of piss and vinegar, we wanted to go over and fight. And we wanted to fight for our country. And I don't think I've ever lost that ambition or vigor. Ever since then, I've done everything I can to serve my country proudly and honorably, and I've done that.
So even after you had more demerits than you have in order to stay in, so there was some incidents that happened directly as a direct result of that, right?
Yes.
And I'm not going to get into the disciplinary stuff, but the allegations were that you were a predator.
Yeah, and that's what people have said in the state of Colorado. So I mean, right off the bat, let's just clear the air on that. It was really simple. In 2007, I think I was like a sophomore at the time. I was on a dating website, like Match.com, with a flip phone and a Hotmail address. I had no idea who I was talking to. I go home for Christmas leave. I come back, so now 2008, right? Because December to January. And I go talk to the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. I had no idea who they were. Always had a positive relationship with police because I worked with them previously as a first responder. And they said, well, did you send these emails? I said, well, that's embarrassing. Yes, I did. I was completely transparent and honest. I still had no idea what they were talking about or why I was even in that office. And then they said, well, were you aware that they were under the age of 18? I said, absolutely not. And you can read in the emails we had sent between each other. That person identified as over the age of 18, female, Colorado Springs. Back in the day with AOL Instant Messenger, ASL, right? That's what we did. And they said, oh, so you had no idea? And I said, no, I had no idea. That was the end of it. That was the end of it. And then what my commander did was he gave me a letter of reprimand for misuse of government network. They gave me an associated amount of demerits with that, and that was the end of it. And I stayed at the academy for another 2.5 years after that.
But you were highly intelligent. I mean, you're an intelligent guy.
I think I'm smarter now than I was back then, though, let's be honest.
But you're a smart guy. I've spent time with you. I've had conversations with you. You're very smart.
Thank you.
And I think a part of that is, and I know that I face this personally, people don't like smart people. And I would say you could be book smart and still not be intelligent, still not have the tenacity that I think that you've pretty much held on to. I would say that's a large part of your character is that you're just a fighter.
I think the product of my upbringing too. I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, New York and New Jersey. Life, it wasn't easy back then for me, as you read in my book. I didn't have the easiest upbringing either, as did you. But you kind of learn to roll with the punches when you grow up in that environment. And when somebody punches you in the face, you try to punch back. But I've always tried to do the right thing and help the little guy too. I always stuck up for kids who are getting bullied and things like that. And I think this is always the right thing to do. And when you make mistakes, you have to admit to them and move on. You can't change your past, but you can always change your future. Okay,
so then there was an investigation that was kind of percolating during this time into some things that are happening at the Air Force Academy that would be questionable.
Yeah, so when after that whole incident happened, I got recruited to work for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. They said, well, you seem like a pretty good guy. You did all these things prior to it. And they knew, and I look back on this now, like this is all me figuring this out when I was older.
Yeah.
But why would they want to work with me? Well, I was already going to the Marine Corps. I had a little bit of a distaste from my experiences at the Air Force Academy. I kind of realized, even though I loved the Air Force Academy, it was my dream school, especially with what I wanted to do in the military, which was go fight bad guys. I was really more drawn to the Marine Corps. So that's why I wanted to go to the Marine Corps. Like I had to finish my degree at the Academy and then just go to the Marine Corps. So I think I was taken advantage of, in my personal opinion, as I look back on it now. They said this kid's going to be a great source of information, because I think, especially with the grad community, and I love the grad community, right? I really do. But the problem is that there is a portion of the Air Force Academy graduate community that will defend that institution at all costs, no matter what good or bad comes out of it. And there's another part of the grad community.
And they should. I mean, they should.
Sure, absolutely.
You should be able to protect the institution.
They
right?
should.
I mean, okay, so.
But I think what we need to talk about too is, if an institution has a problem, we also need to fix it to make sure that institution continues to produce men and women of honor serving in our military.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, there's a portion of the graduate community who, once they leave the United States Air Force Academy or West Point or Annapolis or any of them, they want nothing to do with the graduate community. They want to forget they ever went there. I'm not one of those people. I've always wanted to come back and help the Academy through the Association of Graduates or my classmates who I went to school there with and everything. And I've never stopped that mission. I mean, what happened to me at the Air Force Academy is not uncommon. I have interviewed dozens, if not hundreds, of cadets who have been there, who have experienced similar situations to me, whether it comes to retaliation, the sexual assault, harassment, and things like that went on there.
Yeah, you interviewed a woman that went there that was sexually assaulted.
Many of them, yeah.
And that story then turned around and they said that story was about you, when in actuality you interviewed this person.
Yes. Yeah,
Right.
so her name is Caitlin, and she was a civilian. So I'll just clarify, she was a civilian who was raped by a football player in my class. And she was so severely raped by this person, she had to have a tampon surgically removed from her. And we talked about this on the podcast, and I said, you were never given any justice for your case. He ended up going on and graduating, becoming an officer in the United States Air Force, and nothing ever happened to him. Right. And I said, if this happened to somebody in the civilian world, if you were a civilian and another civilian had raped you, do you think that Colorado State University or Pueblo Sheriff's Department, do you think they would take that differently? She said, yeah, absolutely, because she's currently married to a law enforcement officer now.
Right.
And she said, but that's not the way it worked in the military. They covered up that case. They made it go away. She didn't get any justice for her case. And because she's a civilian and that was a military member they were protecting. And like I said, she wasn't the first person that I've talked to that this has happened to at the Academy. And I think, especially since we hold our military to a high standard, and these institutions produce some of the best men and women in the United States military for the most part, that if there's something wrong, we need to be honest and transparent and say we have an issue and we need to fix it. And for the past 17 years, I've been one of the few people willing to do that.
And you've been talking about this for 17 years, and the institution bites back. But there was a formal investigation underway in the Air Force Academy that started in 2011?
No, so the investigations that I was working on started around 2008 and a half.
Okay.
And to be fair, I did not know I was not the only cadet that was recruited for this program. And obviously I think all the undercover informants at the time didn't know who each other were for a reason. I didn't know my handlers were orchestrating this entire operation. The only reason I found out that it was
All right, so let's just stop for a second.
Sure.
Stop for a second. So you've done investigations into the Air Force Academy. 2010 you left, and it was basically you had already earned your commission out, right? You basically graduated. You fulfilled all the requirements to graduate.
Yes, I did.
Right. And at that point, they gave you a final set of demerits that disqualified you and removed you, and then they never gave you your degree.
Correct. Yeah, I finished all requirements for graduation. I waited an additional 30 days after graduation to leave. That was the agreement I made with the Article 15 that I agreed to take. Article 15, if anyone knows in the military, is non-judicial punishment. So you're not admitting guilt or fault. You're just accepting administrative punishment in lieu of anything else in addition. I think that's a clarification that needs to be stated, because unless you're in the military, you don't understand that. And I agreed to that. They said, if you accept this Article 15 and agree to the conditions of it, we'll give you 30 days of late grad. You'll graduate, because they pulled me 3 hours before the ceremony, right? Gave me that statement.
3 hours before the ceremony.
Yeah, my entire family was there, and they embarrassed my entire family, including my grandmother. That was not cool.
So 3 hours beforehand, you signed something in order. So this is, this is planned.
Oh, it was planned, and it wasn't. I did not sign anything 3 hours prior.
Then someone knew.
Yes.
So someone knew about this, waited to the last possible minute so they must have known that you were actually cooperating with someone, doing something to give up information. Someone had to have leaked that information in order to cause this, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And to this day, I mean, I can make assumptions on who that person was. I mean, but I'll never know the actual
It's
truth.
not a single person. It would have to be more than
It was
one person.
multiple people, but even to this day, do I know the spider web of what was going on in the superintendent's office in the back door when I was a cadet? No. But I can make assumptions based upon the commanders that were involved that I knew at the time.
Interesting. So you're set to graduate 3 hours before you go on to graduate.
Yeah.
They pull it.
Yep, they said they hadn't made a decision on Lake Rad yet, but I could still walk in the parade the day before, and I was likely going to walk the next day. And then my whole family shows up, and they said, nope, we changed our mind. You're not walking today, and now you're going to be on 30 days of Lake Rad. Still under the assumption of I was going to get my degree at the end of that 30-day punishment. I just thought they were just trying to embarrass me in front of my family because that's what they do to you. And I said, fine. So I agreed. I sat there in the stands with my family. I did my 30 days punishment. I built the gazebo at the cadet airfield. It's probably still there today. That was my punishment, to build a gazebo. And then at the end of the 30 days, they called me into the superintendent's office and said, nope, never mind, we changed our mind, you're done. And then they pulled my degree. They charged me hundreds of thousands of dollars and financially ruined me and destroyed my reputation. And I've been fighting that ever since.
Have you stopped fighting?
No, and I won't. Because it didn't just happen to me, it happened to other cadets, but I'm the only one who's gone public about it and has been willing to fight the system. And I think now I understand why people don't fight the system, because they will track you for over almost 2 decades now, because I think the institution at the academy currently as it sits has a problem with admitting when we have a problem. And
well, I think that's any institution. The FBI has the same problem.
Sure.
Any military institution. It's designed to protect itself. I mean, and
Yes.
that same thing that makes it valuable when you go out to serve. I am my brother's keeper. No man left behind. That same mentality then starts to attach itself to the institutional rot that exists inside organizations. Would you agree?
I would agree with that.
Okay. So let's fast forward now. You get out, you're fighting this deal, you go into the civilian world. Okay. What did you do after all this stuff was going on? What did you decide to do?
Well, I mean, the first thing I did was I just had to find a job. And as someone who, without a college degree now, who has no experience other than working, I became a personal trainer right off the bat just to make gas money and pay my bills. And then in 2012, I had an opportunity to enter into the oil and gas industry. And I needed to make as much money as I possibly could because I had lawyer fees to pay. And I mean, these lawyers that I had to hire for my case were ridiculously expensive when you're fighting the federal government. But I did it. I buckled down and I went into the fracking world, working 18 to 22 hours a day for 14 days straight, 7 days off. And I did that for years. And then we found a loophole to get back into the military, and that was the National Guard. Now, to be fair, I was given a general discharge under honorable conditions. But I was given an RE4 code, which means you can never re-enlist or serve in the military ever again, even though I was never convicted of a crime or anything. It was just an extra stamp on the packet they put there. And we went to all the people and they said, well, I don't know who you made mad in the Secretary of the Air Force's office, but this is signed by some pretty high level people. And right after the Obama years, we went through.
So just so you know, there's 2 places no one likes a rat. The government and organized crime.
Yes.
And sometimes they're the same.
I would agree. Now, I didn't require a waiver to get back in the military. I think that's a fallacy that's been put out there in the past by certain people in our party.
So you did not have a waiver?
No, I didn't need a waiver because I didn't commit a crime. I was never convicted of anything. It was, like I said, general discharge under honorable conditions, RE4 code. So went to the National Guard's office.
Did you sign off on the RE4 code when you said, okay, I'll sign on with this for?
No, that was given without my,
Okay.
no, they just gave me a piece of paper and that's what it stated.
And they made some accommodations to your mental state, never interviewed you, didn't do any of that stuff, but they also made some stuff related to your mental acuity?
I didn't find this out until later on. I mean, when I went back into the military, I was not knowledgeable at the time that my mental health records were falsified. This is 2015. So I go into the National Guard. I joined the 19 Special Forces Group. I go and serve 2 years, no issues, had a great time. And they said, all right, let's go try back in commission again. So in 2017, I find a helicopter pilot slot in the Utah National Guard. And I go through all the processes, pass all my tests, all my evaluations, scored really high. because I was already in the pilot pipeline back in the day, so I kind of had the gist of things. And then they come back to me and say, hey, we can't let you fly because there's 7 major psychological conditions listed on your mental health records. And I said, what are you talking about? Keep in mind, I went through the MEPS process and redid basic training. None of this was flagged in my entire file.
Do we know that it was in your file to begin with, or was this added later? It could have been added later.
Well, it was added later. So we go back and look at the records, and the Army spins around the screen, and they say, well, in 2011, it says you met with this doctor and you were diagnosed with all this stuff. And I said there, that's impossible because I was out of the military in June of 2010. So how was I meeting with this doctor at this specific place and given all these diagnoses when I wasn't even in the military? I was a civilian personal training at the time. That's impossible. And that's when we decided to file the lawsuit because we caught them falsifying my mental health records in retaliation for what had happened.
This is in 2012.
2011 is when they stamped it, but I left the academy in 2010. I was a civilian in 2010.
But you got in the National Guard when?
2015.
2015, okay. So years later.
Years later, 5 years after I left the academy.
All right. And you're still having to pay back this $270,000.
To this day.
Okay. $270,000. They had a known problem that resulted in 2011. There was a formal thing that they did inside the Air Force Academy because there had been long-standing problems with the academy, how they treated cadets, especially female cadets, correct?
Yes, and that became known as Operation Gridiron. There was a whole operation that went on.
It became official in 2012.
Officially known in 2012.
Well, the memo is in October of 2011. So the memo that basically sanctioned it would have been heading into 2012.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they had done the investigation all the way past, even before your commission. They were looking into this in 2005, 2006, 2007. The initial, I think, complaint was in 2004.
Yes, and that started after the first sexual assault scandal that leaked in 2003, I believe was correct. And they said, we resolved this issue. They fired all the leadership. And if I remember correct,
They didn't fire all the leadership. They demoted 2, added a new post commander, and then pushed out a couple of teachers and administrators and things like that. So look, just so everyone's aware, if you think that I haven't done my research and I haven't made sure that I went back an additional 5-6 years, I did. I went back and I'm, for all the things that people have said about me, I am pretty well connected. I think Adam would probably agree that I'm very well connected. I know the idea of loose lips sink ships because of the work that I did in the Middle East and Africa and the other people that I was able to engage with, special attachés, ambassadors, you name it. I had those communications. I had the ability to look under the hood and ask questions. It does not mean I got access to any sort of classified material, which I did not. But I did get to have conversations with people that were able to divulge information that led me back to having a conversation with Adam about what truly happened and transpired. Because you can frame a ham sandwich, you can indict a ham sandwich. You can make a ham sandwich look like a turkey. I promise you, you can. I'm a perfect example of that. We're dealing with this whole lawsuit with Eric Coomer, Dominion Voting Systems. They literally have made a ham sandwich look like it is the Taj Mahal, and it's not. So, back to this. 2003, 2004, the investigation started in 2004. That carried on for about 18 months. It was covered up 2 or 3 times during that period. There was a couple people that had forced retirements. They took the retirements because they were disgusted with what was happening inside of it. They didn't want any part of it. It was nuclear.
Right, and I would agree that, especially at that time frame, they wanted to make sure that something like this never resurfaced ever again. So when I became involved with whatever, and I didn't even know it was called Operation Gridiron at the time. I just know I was recruited to work with these people and help out, do the right thing.
They did do some reformation. There was some reformation that happened inside the Air Force. And in fairness, the Air Force Academy has made huge strides for making sure that they're protecting both sides of the sexual deal when it comes to making sure women cadets are not put in a position where they could be they're as much at risk.
I would say it's a much greater improvement from what happened when I was there.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that has to go to the ethos of it as well, because the standards have been lowered. You know, the graduation standards are lowered dramatically. And this is as a result of some of the other institutional erosions that have happened by
Yes.
allowing women to dress up as men. Some of the leadership that we had that allowed really crazy things to happen. Right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. So let's fast forward through this a little bit. I wanted to make sure that everyone understood. I went back. This is, by the way, here's the other thing. Adam and I have not sat down and had any discussion about what we're talking about today.
No, this
correct?
is totally impromptu. You called me last night and said, show up.
Yes.
And I said, yes, sir. So
I have not had any conversation with Adam related to any of this. He does not know the research that I've done. He didn't know the people that I've talked to. There is documentation going around. There are people inside the state party that, frankly, this is the reason why this party has been rotted for 20 years. What I'm trying to do is get everyone to lay down their swords and to have Adam have his day. Now, he's not going to get his day. He might get his day in court, actually. But I'm praying that it doesn't come to that, because what I'd like to do is for people to reset their expectations of how they treat people and each other, right? Fair?
that's fair.
All right. So as we go forward, 2012, 2015, you get in the National Guard. Everything's fine. You have the opportunity to go to Utah. They said, nope, you have a flag on it. That's in 2015.
Basically. Yep. 2017, 2 years after. Yep.
Okay. Tell us what happened then. Did they resolve any of that? They made you go through a psychological exam at that point?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, I was in a special forces unit as a support guy. So I went through a whole psychological evaluation to make sure that everything that the Air Force Academy accused me of is incorrect. And the doctor came back and said it was incorrect. They would decide to file a federal lawsuit. It was originally DeRito versus the superintendent, my former commander, et al. And then they all sought the protection of the U.S. Attorney General's office, and it became DeRito versus USA. And it was strictly on the falsification.
Was this a
of my mental health
QTAM
records.
case that was a protected case, as in protected be protected, or was this a case that was put out there, or was this just on the military side?
It was a case that was put out there in the 10th District Court.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so because we knew you're not going to get anywhere inside the military judicial system with that. It's not going to happen. But the way we tried to frame it was a constitutional argument. They violated my constitutional rights by changing my personal health records at will without my authorization.
Okay. And did you end up being able to go pursue the training to be a helicopter pilot?
No, I did not, because until those records were changed, I couldn't do anything. And the Army was great. The Army's been always super supportive of me, but the Army's like, well, the Air Force said this, but it's not in our medical system, and until they change it, we can't see it on our side. It's just an administrative process thing. So I spent years in
Was
court.
that ever resolved?
To this day, it might be, but like I said, it's not fully encapsulated. It's not fully done yet. I won the case. So this is how it's, just to be really, really quick on this. The 10th District Court of Appeals, because it went all the way up to right below the Supreme Court, they stated that under Parker versus Levy, the military is a separate society and should be treated as such, and therefore we cannot tell the military what to do. So even though we agree that there's an error or an injustice in your records and that obviously something's wrong here, we can't tell the military what to do because it's in their own privatized system. So it got kicked back to the executive branch again, because I had to exhaust all administrative remedies before suing them. And then it went to the Air Force Board of Corrections and Military Records again. And they decided in 2019 that there was in fact an error or an injustice and that my records should be changed. And this was evaluated by multiple psychological professionals, all the evaluations I had done, everything that was out there. And they made the decision to take it out of my records.
How difficult was that?
I mean, it was 9 years of my life to get to that point. I mean, it was
you have this, you hang out with people that are, I say this, when you hang out with knuckle draggers and people that are battle ready, which you did, you tend to make light of the pain of that 9 years.
Yeah, it was extremely painful, and I come off maybe some dark humor to it and maybe my upbringing, but for the most part, I mean, this mentally, emotionally, psychologically exhausts you, because at the end of the day, nobody wants to be associated with that. It's such a long fight financially.
Why'd you continue to fight?
Because it's the right thing to do. And then when I realized, especially all the kids I interviewed, that this is still happening to them and no one's fighting for them. They can't afford it. They're not going to go work in the oil field.
So you doubled down?
Yeah, I doubled down.
You doubled down again.
And then what happened, what even furthered it was this most recent year, a cadet who I was helping advocate for in DC with a very similar case to mine. He had his records changed and had his whole life financially destroyed. They took his degree and everything. He reached out to me and said, hey, can you help me on your lobbying season this year in DC? You know, help my case. And I said, yeah, just give me 2 weeks so I can schedule a meeting and I'll come back and we'll interview. And then his parents contacted me and told me that he took his life and killed himself.
What was his name?
Tristan Toledo. And that hurt because now cadets are dying at the academy because of the same exact issues I went through. And people ask me, how come you haven't killed yourself yet? And I said, because I'm the only one fighting this openly and willing to take all the shots. So, you know, fast forward to what happened a couple days ago. When people actually tell me that, I take it really personally.
You know, there's a certain thing that's happened on the internet and being able to basically attack people. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm in this lawsuit right now with Eric Coomer. You have to put off him for about 15 minutes, okay? I have seen the long arm of injustice. Mm-hmm. I've seen them change records and eliminate things and put their fingers on the scale of justice. Mm-hmm. I asked you some questions earlier today and yesterday. I said, how long have you worked in the oil and gas field?
14 years now.
And how long have you been at the current place where you're at?
7 years. Okay.
So you're fighting uphill. You've been there 7 years. Mm-hmm. I happen to know someone that works in your sphere. Mm-hmm. You've been exceptional. You show up every day. It's still hard work.
Yeah, love my job though.
Yeah. At this point, you got in 2015. You're 11 years in, and something happened in 2025 that allowed for you to finally get what you thought you deserved all along, which is what?
My commission. So, you know, there's the trifecta with the academy case. It took your commission away, your finances away, and your degree away. And basically after that ruling in 2019 and my service and my combat deployment and everything else coming back, the Army, you know, I applied for a very specialized position in the military for a direct commission in civil affairs, and they only take civilian experts in those fields for that. So it was a way for me to kind of jump second lieutenant, first lieutenant. And because of my experience in oil and gas, I was considered a very specialized person for this position. And obviously my relations, which we've discussed in the military, we're not going to say names there, but they were like, you're a perfect fit for this, and we think this is your way in.
How's your current record in the military? It's 2015.
It's perfect. I've never had an incident in the United States Army since 2015 until recently.
How many demerits have you had in the last 11 years? 0 demerits.
0.
How many notices in your file that wouldn't have resulted in demerits do you have currently?
0.
None.
There's nothing in my military file.
And so you have nothing in your military file. I have this saying that if you look behind you and you have a tail, and everyone tells you you have a tail, but you don't see the tail, you probably have a tail. Mm-hmm. In this case, you've gone 11 years, 7 years at your current employer, mm-hmm. 11 years in the military. You have an exemplary record, mm-hmm. which I've been able to confirm in large part by people that you don't know that I know.
I would assume that's true.
Yeah. Because I came out and I told you I'm going to support you because I think what they're doing is wrong. Correct?
Yes.
All right. Have I wavered in that?
No.
All right. And what did I tell you last night?
You're my brother's keeper.
And I also told you not to do something.
React.
No, do not betray me in this.
Oh, yes.
You better,
absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
I was very simple in saying it, right? That I believe everything you're saying, here's why. And I said, don't get egg on my face.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm the same way. You know, loyalty is a lot of...
How did that make you feel, though? That I'm even questioning you? You felt like you had to go backwards a little bit?
Not. It didn't make me feel like I had to go backwards. It just made me feel like, yes, sir. Like, I have nothing to hide, and I'm willing to, you know, undoubtedly be loyal to this issue that we're dealing with, which is the Republican Party as a whole.
Yeah.
Because it's the right thing to do. If people like you and me don't change the system, what does that mean for the future of this country at the end of the day?
Yeah.
This isn't about me. This isn't about you. This isn't about the party. This is about the American people as a whole.
All right, Adam, I got to ask you this, and we're going to be short on time because I know you guys have a big. I'll have him back on again. I want to get a few things more out with Adam, and I think it's important.
Sure.
Okay. You got your commission.
Yes.
And then there are certain people in the community that have I not asked you not to sue these people?
Yes.
All right. And the attorney said, I have all this information, put this all in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I looked at him and said, I need to have a conversation with Adam. I picked up a phone, called you, and I was like, Adam, I think this is a bad idea. We're trying to rebuild the Republican Party. And the lawyer said to me, Adam has these people dead to rights, right?
Yes.
And so then I came to you and said, please operate with restraint, right?
That's why I agreed to come in today.
Right. The amount of slander that I've seen people go through in this party is pretty intense.
I would agree.
Right? And you ran for, or excuse me, got your commission in August of last year, by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
This year, you got contacted by the Gazette.
Yes.
With a bunch of allegations.
Yeah.
And you told them it's not true.
Correct.
And they wrote an article.
Anyway.
Based on a bunch of information.
And anonymous sources.
But not before they didn't file a complaint against you at your current position in the Army.
Yes, the people that were involved.
That created an investigation, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So now they're interfering with your ability to do your job.
Yes.
And making accusations using something that they say happened back in 2007? 2008?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they're taking 18 years ago, they're coming back here and saying he did this, and then they made additional accusations that you made comments about women.
Yeah, that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. When I was at my direct commission course, I graduated #1 on my course. There was somebody who was there, who was from the state of Colorado, who was directly involved, and somebody who was at the academy during my time during that case. And they made up completely fabricated lies. They falsified official statements to the federal government and the investigators. And that investigation came back unfounded, by the way. I will clarify that. That's not really public information, but that investigation came back unfounded. But now people in the military at significantly high levels are looking into the people who created that fake investigation, and they're currently being looked into now as we speak.
Okay. I'm going to have you back on. I think this is a really good segue to, first of all, I want everybody to understand something. I brought you in here because I'm trying to resolve and we're trying to heal the party, correct?
Yes.
And I told you before that, they made some accusations. Those accusations I find to be unfounded. I think most people do, right? It doesn't mean that you're not a flamboyant guy when it comes to having fun.
Absolutely.
It just means that you didn't do any of this stuff.
No.
That they've made accusations on.
No, I have not.
What do you have to say? And I want to give you the final word. What do you have to say to the people that have made up these accusations, that have been a part of this as you have fought for the last 18 years? I'm going to give you the floor and let you talk directly to them.
For me, I understand that everybody goes through pain and they have their personal reasons for why they do things. And as a Catholic, of course, I forgive you. That there's nothing, I don't have any real animosity towards these people. But what I would remind people is that doesn't mean that justice does not have to be dealt. I think this isn't just involving me, and it's happened to several other people when it comes to these things. But when something wrong happens, we need to ensure that there's accountability and justice in the system. And I'm hoping that those mechanisms work themselves out so that what happened to me never happens to anyone ever again. Because if we don't do this, we're never going to be able to heal this party. We're never going to be able to move forward. We're never going to be able to make sure that people can raise families, have kids, and do their jobs, and live the American way of life here in the state of Colorado and beyond. And that's all I want to do.
All right, Adam, we'll follow up on this again. I stand by all my statements. I do appreciate your service. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
Everyone have a great Memorial Day, and we will see you tomorrow. All right, God bless you.
rise up untamed. In the heart of the fire where the wild ones roam, Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew.